Okay, we are live. Welcome to the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter study group. This is our last study group for November of 2021. This is our 14th class. Welcome to our organized chaos here. Let me shut this down a little bit. Our mission for the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter is to bridge the gap between industry leaders and business analysts by building partnerships with professionals, educators, and employers so that we may empower, instruct, and engage the Tampa Bay IT community. This has grown. We are now working with everyone in the northern half of Florida, as well as people all around the world. I recently gave a presentation to the Jamaica chapter, and we've got a couple of other chapters and other people around the world that are joining our study group. So welcome. If you're interested in becoming a member of our chapter, let them know at the IIBA. Our chapter is run by our board. Cliff is our president. He is online with us. Lori is our vice president of finance. We've got Caitlin and Priscilla as members at large. Members at large are not obligated to participate year-round in their tenure. However, they are able to lean in whenever they have an opportunity. Not only are they invaluable to us, they make us look good and we look good on their resumes. We also have myself. My name is Thea Raisins. I'm the Vice President of Career and Professional Development for the chapter. And Tiffany is my cohort and partner in crime teaching this class. I don't know if Tiffany's here. Is Tiffany here? Okay, let's move on. Bob Churchill is our resident subject matter expert. Bob has earned his CBAP, the Certified Business Analysis Professional from the IIBA. He has also earned his CBDA, his Project Management Professional, his CSM, his CSPO, Certified Scrum Product Owner, CSD, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and probably a few other things he doesn't have listed here. The reason that we are thrilled that he is here is because he gives us the ability to count this hour as education credit for the IIBA. Let's see, people that are online. We've got Cliff online and Bob and myself. And who is the other person that's online?
Hi, it's Saber Aaron. I found your study group through Olivia Hampton at the Palmetto chapter.
All right.
I was part of the Palmetto RTP study group. I missed a class, so I have to make 2.5 hours to have my 35 contact hours to sit for the CBAP. So
awesome. Am I spelling your name? Am I spelling your name correctly here?
It's Sabra like the hummus, Sabra, and then Aaron like the boy's name.
Okay, and you get credit for being here. Congratulations and thank you for joining us.
R-O-N.
2 A's, 1 R. Yeah, I'm flexible.
Thank you.
With a name like that,
get it right. So whenever we report it to the IIBA, they get it right too. So let's do it right. Is there anyone else online with us?
Yeah, we got Sid and Tiffany now and Ilya.
Hey guys.
I am so glad that you guys showed up. It's a lot more fun with the conversation. Let's see, Tiffany, I know I've got you on here. There you are. And is it Ilya or Yulia?
Hey, Ilya joined.
Thank you. Okay, do I have everyone?
Sid. Yep.
Got Sid. Okay, let us move on. As I said, this is our last study group for the month of November. We've got 3 more study groups scheduled for the month of December, and then we'll be done for the year. And our scores have not been stellar, but they haven't been horrible either. This week, we're going to work on requirements analysis and design definition, and let's see what kind of score we can get. Okay, so again, Watermark is the study tool that I prefer, and so I paid for the membership and they extended it for us so that our study group could use these test questions. Let's see, Is it requirements analysis and design? Is that what I just said?
Yes.
Is this the correct
That
one,
is-
guys? I need a feedback. Somebody tell me, am I on the right test?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's get it started. Let me make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. Okay. Which of the following is not a verification activity? Checking for compliance with organizational performance standards for business analysis, checking for completeness within each model, identify and verify assumptions, or checking for correct use of modeling, notation, templates, or forms.
I agree with that choice C.
Okay, we've got one vote for C. Who else?
I'd go with B. Bravo.
Okay. Okay, we've got a C and a B. I need a breaking tie. I'll tell you what.
By the way, is not having read the chapter.
Tell me why you go for B, Bob.
Because everything else is a something you can get a yes or no answer for, and completeness is more subjective, I think.
That is true. And why did you go for C?
I feel like the identify is the problem, because if you're identifying assumptions, you're not really verifying, you're still discovering. And that identify kind of stuck out to me.
Kind of hard to verify something you haven't identified. That's true.
That's a true thing.
That's
okay.
Very insightful.
It is very insightful.
By the way, verify is, did you build the thing correctly, or identify or address that particular need? And verify or validate is, does that solve the problem?
I agree. A lot of people get those confused. Thank you for clarifying that. Let's see if C is correct, and it is. Well, let's just make this bigger. C is a fabricated answer. Assumptions are identified and defined in order to manage any associated tasks. So the identification happens much earlier than the verification activity. Very good. We got one right, guys. Let's go. I'm going to have to make this a little smaller. Okay, we've got a couple of questions based on this scenario. You're assigned to a project to help re-engineer a bank statement processing. Another team member showed you this diagram of what he had modeled. He said the scope of the project is concentrated around the item. However, you are not familiar with this type of diagram. So let's look at the diagram. Looks kind of like a context diagram with I'm sorry, what is this kind of notation called?
I'm guessing that's a one-to-one relationship.
Yeah, and this is 1 to infinite.
One to many.
1 to many, and then 1 to 1. So we've got a count.
Data model.
Diagram scroll.
Oh, yeah, there's more scroll there. Look at that.
There is. And I'm not going to be able to get it all. So let's start with the top. For the account, we've got information included for that's account number, date open, account balance, account type. And then for account type code, account type description. Then transaction ID, transaction date, transaction amount, and included with that is post-transaction report and the transaction report. And then statement, the statement ID, statement date, and period ending date. So,
and that makes sense because you might have 0 statements, but you could have many statements for that account. And transactions is the same way. You can have no transactions or a bunch.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely a data diagram. And there's only one account type per account.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. So let's see what the first question is, and we'll come back to the diagram if we need to. A different team member questions the post-transaction and report transaction attributes in the transaction box. Which is the correct response? The other teammate is incorrect because the names below the line on the class diagram represent foreign keys, which would be this right here. The other teammate is incorrect because names below the line in the class diagram represent operations. Is post-transaction and transaction report an operation?
Yes.
The other teammate is correct, and the 2 items are actually other classes related to the given class. Or the other teammate is correct, and the 2 items are probably misnamed attributes.
Bravo.
So you vote for B. Tell me why you vote for B.
Because posting and reporting are operations that are done on the basis of the transaction. They're appropriately placed, I guess. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this kind of diagram, but they definitely look like operations to me.
Okay.
Yeah, they almost look like reports. Is that, that wouldn't be part of the data diagram for a transaction.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's, posting it is a thing you do to sort of change its state of being, and reporting on it is a thing you do based on its nature. Like, it's reportable, would be my guess.
Okay. Do we have a second vote? I've got 1 vote for B.
I concur.
Yeah, I do
We've
too.
got a second vote. Okay, let's see what they say the answer is. So they're calling this a class diagram. And they say the answer is a class diagrams use this convention. And so you are correct. We're on a roll. Let's go. Okay, the same situation, new question. The business expert wants to make sure that statements can be produced at least monthly or quarterly. What do you tell her? There's nothing in the model to limit how often statements are produced. A business rule would state the timing of statement production. Other type of model would be the one to dictate how often statements are produced. Or you see the other documentation to be sure. Sid, what do you think the answer for this one is?
I'm going to say A, because there was nothing to limit how often the statements are.
Yeah, that statement table had a start date and an end date, right? If you scroll down. So that's, or no, statement date and period ending date. So I'm assuming that would be like a start and end date.
Statement date. So the statement date is the date the statement is issued. The period ending date is the
last day of the reporting period.
Yeah, what is comprised by the statement.
But the period ending date would infer that the next period would begin the next day. So you got the start and end date there, and then you've got the statement date.
But nothing tells you how long that period is.
Right.
And nothing tells you then how often they're produced. And statements can be one-offs.
Right, you can just like on demand.
True. So would that be controlled by a business rule?
I'm torn between B or C, because like another type of model, I don't know. Maybe there is one.
I would go A.
Yeah, I would go A because there's nothing there to limit. Really, honestly.
The way
well,
you
maybe.
implement that is there's a million ways.
Yeah, you can create lots of different kind of models. Okay, so the class diagram itself does not limit statement production, but there may be other documentation describing the timing and any constraints on how often statements are produced. They say the correct answer is you need to see other documentation to be sure.
Well, okay, there's nothing in the model which is correct. Absolutely. There may also be other documentation or simply institutional knowledge, because maybe it's not written down anywhere. So I think that's a misleading question.
Would you like for us to report this question?
I would.
I would.
I like reporting bad questions. I feel like we're quality control at that point. You know, quality control is a gatekeeper to keep bad things from leaving. We should do that. While analyzing elicitation results and creating representation of those results, which set of activities will a business analyst typically be engaged in? Modeling requirements, analyzing requirements, representing requirements and attributes, and analyzing potential value, or B, modeling requirements, defining requirements, defining requirements architecture, representing requirements and attributes, implementing the appropriate levels of abstraction, modeling requirements, analyzing requirements, defining design options, implementing the appropriate levels of abstraction, or D, modeling requirements, analyzing requirements, representing requirements and attributes, implementing the appropriate levels of abstraction. Every time I see a question with answers like this, I want to create a grid so I can figure out which ones have which things different.
And also, which ones appear in all four options so you can eliminate them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, modeling requirements and all of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Analytic requirements in 3.
Yeah.
We've got
representing requirements in 2.
In 3. It's in 1, 2, and 4. I'm sorry, A, B, and D.
Oh, yeah. 3. Implementing abstraction is in
B, C, and D.
Oh, for pity's sake.
I know. So analyzing requirements is in A, golly.
I'm going to go with A.
Okay.
A is the best answer to me, but I don't know.
We've got 2 answers. Let's talk it through. Okay, so they say A is incorrect because the analyze potential value and recommend solution task does not result in specified and modeled requirements or design. The purpose of the task is to estimate the potential value for the design option and establish the most appropriate one. They say the correct answer is D, because business analysts transform elicitation results into requirements and designs by engaging in these activities, which are elements in the specify and model requirement task. And these are the elements that are listed in BABOK 7.1.4. Let's just go look at it.
So it's that last one, analyzing potential value versus implementing and appropriate.
That's what they say.
Levels of abstraction. Yeah.
So model, analyze, represent, implement abstraction.
Yes. Sorry, I gotta go.
Levels of abstraction sounds like a Doors album.
It could be. It's the one that they never got to the vinyl.
There.
Come on. Okay, we should find it soon then. 7 point, no, that's not what I need.
Can you go to the answer again?
Yes.
Scroll over.
Analyze, represent, implement. Yeah, the D, it's
7.1.4. Search for that.
I did, but it's giving me every single 7.1 in the place.
Yeah, I'm looking at a paper BABOK, and those are literally the 4 elements.
Let me go to 148.
Yeah, it's page 138 in the paper.
Okay.
Go to 130 should be it.
Well, here's 138. Let's see if we're at the right place.
If you scroll up, so 7.1 point, there it is. See elements, 7.1.4, model, analyze, represent, implement. It just points up the importance of like straight up memorizing those elements. Oh,
for real. I don't think.
I mean, you just have to know it. Good golly.
Mm-hmm. Incidentally, you're not aware of this. We're going to be rewriting the BABOK. And if you have suggestions or if you'd like to participate, you're welcome to help us. Because some of this stuff, memorizing it doesn't work for the real world. I mean, it's right according to the BABOK, but it doesn't help people in the real world, and that's what we want it to do. Okay, let's go back to the test. Come on. No, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, guys. Apparently, I'm a little key crazy today. Okay, let's go to the next one. On a project, a business analyst makes sure the requirements models have met the necessary standard of quality so that they can be used effectively to guide further work. What has the business analyst been doing? They've been documenting a transition requirement, validating the requirement, verifying the requirement, or specifying and modeling the requirement. So they are making sure the requirement models have met the necessary standard of quality so they can be used to effectively guide further work.
I would say B.
Why do you think B?
Because it is validating is assessing the rightness and goodness of the requirement. So if you validate it, definitely holds up. It's great. So you can rely on it to build work on.
Okay, I agree with you. Tiffany, what do you think? Sid?
I'm with you guys, right? Validating the requirement.
Okay.
Verifying is after it's implemented, right?
Yes, verifying is, did it meet the needs that we set forth?
Well, verify could be in the case of a requirement, and I know the BABOK talks about this. Is it in the right form? Does it meet your standards in terms of language or whatever for creating the requirement? Validating is, does it actually solve the problem? It could be verifying because it's a standard of quality, which means it's got to be written a certain way. It's got to be defined. It's got to be standalone and all kinds of other things. But I think it's B, but it could be C.
Okay. Let's try B. We've got a couple of votes for it. Okay. So validating is making sure the requirement is warranted and supports the business requirements discovered, which we agree with that. Verifying makes sure the requirement is good enough to continue working with.
We had it backward in my I had those backward in my mind.
I like the courage of my convictions.
We are learning. Okay, so verifying, make sure the requirement is good enough to continue working with. We're verifying we're going the right direction to get to our destination. Validating is making sure the requirement is warranted and supports the business requirements discovered. That's not so easy for me to understand, but maybe y'all can.
And honestly, A, if it didn't have the rest of that stuff after documenting, because the whole purpose of documenting is to guide further work. So
yeah,
That's a transition requirement. That's really different.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I meant the word documenting, not the rest of it after that.
Right.
If it just said documenting, it would have been best. Okay, a senior business analyst was providing advice to a new business analyst and recommended using a matrix for their requirements modeling format. What is the purpose of this type of format? A matrix clearly describes the requirements in an active voice. A matrix provides an easy way for the business analyst to model the requirements. A matrix conveys a set of requirements that have a complex but uniform structure that can be broken down, or a matrix creates a visual representation of a set of requirements. Just a question, a matrix they're talking about is something like a spreadsheet, right? It's a grid.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a traceability matrix.
Yes.
C leaps out at me, but that's probably wrong.
Well, to be honest, C is what I was thinking too.
Me three.
They've got a uniform structure, which means it's easy to put it in rows and columns and do an apples to apples comparison. Let's check it out.
And I were talking about this before the meeting, so we have matrices on the mind.
We do have matrices on the mind, and we can't take antibiotics or anything else. It's really bad. Rebecca is structuring the requirements to ensure all requirements form a single whole that supports overall business objectives and produce meaningful outcomes for the stakeholders. Which of the following would not be considered a consideration for Rebecca? So she's not going to worry about completeness, requirements, viewpoints, and views, template architectures, or requirements allocation.
C seems kind of the big outlier.
I'm going to say D.
I'd say D.
Well, we've got 2 votes for D. Anybody else disagree?
I think Sid said B.
B as in boy?
No, D as in David.
D as in David. Okay, we've got 2 votes for D. Let's check it out. Yes. Requirements allocation is the process of aligning requirements to solution components and releases to best achieve the objective, which is a consideration in defined design options as according to BABOK 7.5.4.3. Man, I wanted to keep going on that one. Good job, Sid. Good job, Bob. I'm talking to you, have been assigned to specify requirements as a brief statement about what people do or need to do when using a solution. Which of the following criteria is not part of your activity? A short description of the solution capability that provides value to the stakeholder, high-level information that is informal, detailed information in the form of a story that allows the developer to build through several releases, or 1 or 2 sentence stories that allow the developer to estimate the work required for the implementation.
C seems like the outlier.
Talking about going through several releases?
Yeah, because it's every other answer is sort of, oh, you know, a little taste of something. It's high level. Yeah. It's 1 or 2 sentences, and
this does say a brief statement.
And you would not to detail a story that's going to last several releases based on a really brief sketch of, oh, they need to do something kind of like this.
The only way I can see that a brief statement could go through several releases is if it's a high enough level where it's like the customer can deposit money in their account. I mean, that could be several releases, but we don't know. Let's find out. Correct. User stories are typically a sentence or 2 that describes who has the need and the goal they are trying to achieve. They are not detailed. What gets me about this answer is this never says anything about a user story. It says specify requirements as a brief statement.
Is a requirement brief statement another way of saying user story? I mean,
it can be, but it could also be talking about other stuff.
Yeah, sure enough.
I would flag this one as being generally goofy. Also,
you know what? I so wish we could add notes to our flags.
Generally goofy.
Yes, falls into the generally goofy category and does not reach the high standards as we want to pursue them. Atomic is a characteristic of requirements and design quality. What does it mean? Atomic means it contains no extraneous or unnecessary content. Atomic is small and atom-like. Atomic is at the level that will guide further work. Or atomic is a self-contained and capable of being understood independently of other requirements or designs.
Let's see, D. D is in dog.
I think it's C.
Okay. This is the correct definition of atomic. It can stand alone. Which of the following requirements does not meet the characteristics of a quality requirement? The system shall display bond prices using 3 decimal places instead of fractions. The system shall read the tracking database and feed the bond prices to the web database using XML. The system shall provide a maintenance function for correcting any missing data, or bond prices will be viewable and sortable by maturity, date, length of security, yield, and rating. So the characteristics for a quality requirement, does anybody remember what the list is?
Smart, I think.
Oh, right.
Like measurable, and that's smart criteria. Achievable.
What does the S stand for? Succinct? I can't remember. Oh, that's crazy.
Well, let's get the answer and then it'll tell us.
C.
C is in cat?
Yeah.
Anybody else agree or disagree?
There's no like
agree.
specifics. What about A?
Actually, I like C because everything else is specific.
Oh, this is not. Yeah, this is not.
That's
Not characteristics.
Yeah, I agree.
It's more of a C is more of a process, where the others are more like requirements.
Yeah, you know whenever you can measure and say, yes, we have achieved it.
Right.
With this one, a maintenance function, define maintenance function and define missing data. Okay, let's check this. Ooh.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
So while C is a bit high level, it's still a valid functional requirement and meets the characteristics for quality requirements. B is a poorly written requirement because it names technologies and constrains the solution design. I want to flag this one because there are times whenever, because of the build of the system, you have to name technologies. I mean,
the other thing is if you have to be super general, like say, you'd have to write to the web database using just in text some kind of defined format, and that's just goofy. It's splitting hairs. Whoever wrote that should be dipped in honey and staked to an anthill.
That's pretty harsh. You feel strongly about this, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that I have written requirements that specified a technology or a format or even metadata, because in dealing with APIs for other companies, you know, that we exchange information with other companies, we had to identify what that other company needed from us as well as what we needed from them. And so writing it and being very specific was the only way to get it done correctly. I did flag that for you. Okay, Sandy has been hired as the lead business analyst in an ongoing project. The outgoing leader handed her a set of requirements for the initiative that were already documented and modeled. What task might Sandy do next? Is she going to verify the requirements, define design options, accept the requirements, or define solution scope.
A.
Is there any of those we
Yeah,
could automatically eliminate? Do you think A is the answer?
Yeah.
A sounds like the logical thing you do. Next.
Let's find out. Yes, according to this scenario, the requirements have already been documented, which is specified and modeled. Specified and modeled requirements are inputs to verify, validate, and defining requirements architecture. So one of these would be your next task. Very good, Cliff. Okay. This model represents a sequence of actions, events, or a course that may be taken. Which requirements model category is represented by the above statement? Are we talking about people in roles, an entity relationship diagram, rationale, or an activity flow? Sequence of actions, events, or a course that may be taken.
D as in dog.
Does anybody disagree? Awesome. That is exactly the answer. Which of the following is not a stated technique for the defined requirements architecture task? Functional decomposition, interviews, scope modeling, or process modeling. It is not a stated technique for defining requirements architecture.
I would say B.
Yeah, that's an outlier.
It sure is. Ooh.
Yeah, shit.
No way. Okay, let's go check 7.4.6. I want to see this. Techniques, data modeling, functional decomposition, interviews, organizational modeling, scope modeling, and workshops. So I want to go up and see what is the define requirements architecture task, because now I'm a little confused. I want the definition, thank you. Structures all requirements and design so that they support the overall business purpose for a change and that they work effectively as a cohesive whole. Are y'all okay with this one?
Oh, it is there.
I think I did not. I think I had a different thought about what this was talking about.
Yeah, I think BABOK probably could be better there.
I agree. We're going to make it better. That's why I volunteered to be one of the managing authors. It's like, no, this is stupid. We're not doing this to our people anymore. The following are guidelines and tools under the validate requirements task. Which one is not? Solution scope, potential solution, future state description, or business objectives. Before we do this, let's figure out what they think validate requirements means. There we are. Okay, the purpose of validate requirements is to ensure all requirements and designs align to the business requirements and support the delivery of needed value. So, solution scope, potential solution, future state description, or business objectives.
I'm not sure that helped.
I mean, based on that, I might suggest solution scope.
Here they are. Business objectives, future state description, potential value, and solution scope.
So potential solution is the odd duck out.
It is the only one that does not match this list.
In general, the questions on the exam I think don't ask stuff that's this detailed, but knowing the inputs and outputs to every task and all the tasks in each knowledge area is very helpful.
I'm looking forward to hearing y'all's stories about what you think is good and challenging whenever you do take the test. And I really want to know.
And I hope you all take it, because most people who go through these classes and study never take the exam. Don't even pass. They don't even take it. So please at least take it.
You're investing time and effort into yourself. Give yourself the reward. Even if you have to take it twice, give yourself the reward. So, definition: a business model canvas describes how an enterprise creates, delivers, and captures value for or from its customers. It's composed of 9 building blocks that describe how an organization intends to deliver value. So, what is a business model canvas?
I would say B. Didn't it? Because it said rationale.
It does?
Well, maybe it didn't. Maybe I just hallucinated that.
No, you didn't hallucinate. You did synonyms. But we have rationale here, and we have rationale here.
It could be both. There's no reason that I'm not hallucinating synonyms. Just
May we all hallucinate together? Okay, I need somebody else to give me an answer.
This difference is the technique or is it process, right? And if we know, so that's
business model canvas
technique,
right? That's a technique because it's section 10. It's technique.
It is a technique. It's in the techniques chapter.
Yeah. So
let's try it out. All right. Okay. Satisfying and modeling requirements is a task in which of the following knowledge areas? Strategy analysis, solution evaluation, requirements analysis and design definition, or elicitation and collaboration. Specifying and modeling requirements. Where is it at? Maybe a better question.
C.
I think C, but
because we're going through this chapter.
Let's try it. That's why you guys make the big bucks, man. Awesome. Requirements may be modeled using a variety of formats. Which of the following correctly lists the types of requirements formats? There's logical, physical, formal, or informal. There's text, matrices, and diagrams. There's throwaway, evolutionary, or functional. Or there's text, matrices, and graphical.
It's B.
Anybody else have an answer?
A.
Okay. I need a tiebreaker.
I vote for B, text matrices, diagrams.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, let's find out. B is correct. Good job. What are the 3 typical components of a user story? What, when, and why? Who, what, and when? Who, what, and how? Or who, what, and why?
Who, what, and why, I think. No?
I think. Got a second answer? Anybody else?
WTF ain't there, but
Agree.
As a who, I want what and because of why. Note that there are no mandatory structure for user stories. This structure, role, goal, motivation, is the most popular. But I've read it in 50 different books. As a senior business analyst, you have been approached by a junior business analyst to provide advice on when to use a capability model category. Which of the following is the correct response? A, when representing organizations, groups of people, roles, and their relationships within the enterprise and to a solution. B, when representing a sequence of actions, events, or a course that may be taken. C, when representing features or functions of an enterprise or solution. Or D, when representing the characteristics and exchange of information within an enterprise or solution.
Feels like A.
What about features and functions? To me, like
C.
capabilities.
I agree.
C.
So you're saying C?
Yep.
Okay, let's find out. It is correct. This is the stated description of the capability category. Very good. Okay, what state or status should the requirements be in to serve as an input to the defined requirements architecture task? Approved? They can be in any state or status. They have to be confirmed or they have to be verified as an input to the defined requirements architecture task.
Probably approved. Got to get them approved before you can include them, right?
As an input, they can be in any state, right?
What about verified?
On requirements architecture, I feel like
maybe approved.
Let's see, requirements any state. Actually, I'm looking at the BABOK.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Wow,
I'm pretty sure.
It's a free for all.
It is, and I recall this text being in the BABOK. So it doesn't matter what the state is of the requirements for them to be an input into the defined requirements architecture task, but you do need to still have them verified, approved, to go through the all of the evolution of getting them to the point where you can count on them. In many cases, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I guess the requirements proceed through their own like set steps of getting verified and
yes,
but they can serve as the input even if they are not fully through their path, and that's like the non-linear nature of the BA tasks.
It is, and whenever I first was introduced to the concept of the requirements going through these different stages, I realized that somebody that probably had a chemistry background or a biology background was involved in this, because it is, you know, it's this thing in this state, and then it moves into this next state, but it's still the same thing, but it's just in a different state. And I was intrigued. I want to find out who this person is and how they think.
Well, state diagrams are a very standard thing in computer science. And
yes,
physics and other things, but
you're probably right. I may be overthinking it. In many cases, stakeholders have different conflicting needs and expectations, and isn't that a circus? How would a business analyst help expose these differences and ensure their needs are met? Would it be through collaboration, through team tracking, through item tracking, through specifying and modeling their requirements, or through validation?
Collaboration.
Yeah, I would say A is.
Let's find out. They say the correct way to do it is through validation. It can expose different conflicting needs and expectations of stakeholders. Remember that most of the tasks in the BABOK are not sequential, but are iterative and concurrent in nature. So as you validate a requirement, you be sure that it meets everyone's needs, or it doesn't cause a conflict with someone else's requirement.
Well, how do you validate? By collaborating, making sure everyone signs off on it is in fact a form of collaboration, because if there are disagreements, it's got to be worked out together.
Would you like for me to flag this one?
Yeah.
Okay. You just created stakeholder and solution requirements. What task did you finish? Specify and model requirements, prioritize requirements, verify requirements, or structure requirements.
E.
Did you say D as in dog?
Yeah, structure.
Anybody else?
A.
Yeah, I concur with A.
Okay, we've got two answers for A. Majority votes. Okay, create requirements is another way of saying specify and model. Very good. Kevin wants to model the rationale of the why for a particular change. What technique might he use to accomplish this task? Scope modeling, stakeholder list, map, or personas, user stories, or process modeling? The rationale or the why for a particular change.
User stories, C, right?
C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, user stories is one of the techniques used in the activity flow modeling category, which represents actions and events, but scope modeling is the technique used as the rationale modeling category, which models the why of the change. Do y'all want to look at a scope model real quick?
You know, I think that's maybe goofy because the scope of a change is it's kind of driven by context. So there's the overarching scope of the project and there's scope of all the increments within it at various levels. And that's not what really drives the why. I mean, now I'm talking myself into this because if you understand the hierarchy, what you're doing for the whole thing or in any given increment, it should make logical sense. And that tells you kind of there's a why associated with that. But I think it's kind of goofy because scope, you normally talk about the entire project and things are in and out of scope. You don't as often talk about it during increments, but of course it applies.
Okay. And
scope is more like boundaries, and why could be a business case or like project chart or something.
I agree. I agree. It is goofy. So I flagged it as you instructed.
Yeah, and looking at even scope model is mentioned in sort of the same level of priority as user stories. Anyway, not to belabor the point.
Okay, well, we flagged it. What characteristic of a quality requirement is missing in this requirement? Quote, the call center operator shall be able to view details of a protected household, unquote. It is concise, it is understandable, it is complete, or it is consistent.
I don't know. I'd like a definition of a protected household in that.
I want to know what details means.
Yeah.
I don't think it's complete. Do you think that they're going to go for complete or concise?
I was going to say complete or understandable.
Who else wants to vote?
I think complete because
complete.
Like
let's find out.
Where or yeah.
Okay, the stated requirement is incomplete in the sense that it lacks a qualifier. A complete requirement would state the call center operator shall be able to view details of a protected household within 2 seconds of an issuing query. I didn't even go to that. I was thinking, what are the details? And what is a protected household?
That's just goofy.
Okay, got the goofy flag. You have been asked to facilitate a workshop to help clarify the scope of a solution. Your objective is to complete business architecture for the proposed scope of a solution, complete a sequence diagram for all interactions within the scope of a project, complete document analysis based on the project scope, or organize requirements based on the solution components they are related to. You're clarifying the scope of a solution with the workshop.
B and C are out because they're project scope instead of just little scope, right?
Well, a solution could be project scope.
I don't feel like, so, I mean, the scope of the solution is being developed within the context of the larger project.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not the project scope in and of itself. It is a thing that is comprised by.
I'm not sure you're right about that.
Okay.
Okay, C is document analysis, and you're doing a workshop, so you're not really doing a document analysis.
But the question is asking, what is the objective?
Clarifying this.
So what does a workshop do? Whenever you're holding a requirements workshop, what does it do?
Well, in this case, you're deciding whether all the requirements you've identified so far are in scope or out of scope.
And you're completing any requirements that may have been missed because you get everybody together to have the workshop.
What about D? Because workshop says requirements and solution components are the building blocks of the scope. So
I'm thinking D too, because
if
the
you're
workshop
required,
is the purpose is to organize.
Yeah, if you're the requirement you've gathered or otherwise come upon in the workshop can't be organized into one of the solution components, then how does it fit into the scope of that solution?
All right.
Agreed. The rest is more like detailed. Okay. Yeah.
Very good. Scope models are used to describe the scope of analysis for the scope of the solution or the scope of a solution. So it's a scope model. That's a weird answer. So facilitating a workshop to clarify the scope of a solution, and it's talking about scope models. I don't know that there's any guarantee that because we're facilitating a workshop to clarify a scope that we're going to use a scope model technique. Is this flaggable or not? Am I off here?
I could have made an argument for all 4 of those answers being reasonable.
Does that mean it's flaggable?
I think the rationale for why D is the correct answer is a little specious.
Okay, then I'm flagging it. It's got the goofy flag. Okay, let's see what our answers are. Submit exam, view results. We got a 72, guys. That is better than we've done in a while. Will you come back next time?
And everyone that was incorrect was flagged.
You know what?
I think so, right?
It seems right to me. Okay, we got a 72. Look at us go. Let me save it. Okay. We are at time. here is our attendance. Those of you who have been consistently here, you are going to get credit for every single day that you are here. And those of you who have just been in a few times or are here today for the first time, welcome. And you're going to get credit for every single day that you're here. We will meet again in a week to do the next chapter. Please review the next chapter as well as the requirements, as the techniques chapter, because it seems to be heavier and heavier, including techniques into each of these questions. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, in that case.
Sabra, since you're new, have you gotten into our channels?
I have not. So I really am just here because I missed one of the Palmetto chapters because they've been doing, and I'm not in the Palmetto region, I'm in Ohio. So I've just been trying to find the contact hours, and I missed a class. So the Palmetto chapter does mostly like presentations, and then we've had a couple of sessions of quiz taking like this.
Right.
So this is super helpful to do more of that quizzing and seeing the value of that. So very interesting.
If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, that's the only reason I bring this up. We actually have all these sessions recorded and available.
All right. Yeah, here
I can get you into the channel so you can see all that.
That's fantastic.
And honestly, the conversation about why a question is wrong or right, or which answer is good, has been the most helpful for me. So that's why I really appreciate it when people participate and they don't just show up and then sign in and leave. Okay, guys, next week is our 15th class. We are going to rock it. I hope y'all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and the month of December is going to be phenomenal for us all. I proclaim it now. Okay, I'll see y'all next week.
All right, have fun. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.